Hello, all the crazy people out there. My name is Michael. I like wizards and dragons making games, and we have a game. Most of one, anyway. The list of things I need to do before this is done continues to shrink. Today I'm going to be dealing with visuals. Maybe the next video I might also deal with visuals, depending on how much of it I can get through today. And after that, pretty much everything that's left is like a couple little audio, a few audio tasks, and just actually like building the game and making sure that it works on different devices and that sort of thing. Maybe I'll have a Raspberry Pi day again, as I did in the tower defense game. Anyway, gonna get out of there. So someone reminded me that I've been talking about for the last like 35 weeks or whatever that separating the background and the foreground of the game and having like an outline around the player and also the enemies of the game are something that I want to do and haven't so far. I think I might have like had that on a card last time and dragged it to the complete column without completing it, but anyway, we're going to be doing that today as well. First, background foreground resolution skills don't do anything. I'll get to that. Setting for density of background objects, I will get to that probably. If the game like runs fine on a Raspberry Pi, I won't bother with this one. Background for title screen, remaining level background visuals, and yeah, the other background visuals. Do I have two cards for that? Whatever. So let's close that, and right off the bat, to separate the background and the foreground, the background stuff is already drawn onto the background surface. I did do that a few weeks ago, I think so that like the tops of trees wouldn't clip through the bottoms of like flat enemies and that sort of thing. Not really something that I liked to see the game doing, but... And this honestly isn't something that I expect is going to impact performance a lot. It may on a Raspberry Pi, but aside from that, probably not tremendously. Have the resolution scale affect the background. And now that I think about it, I don't know if I want to have one for the foreground too, because that might just make the foreground like blocky and hard to read, and that would affect gameplay, and I don't want that. But we'll definitely do it for the background surface. So the menu option that's like the scale. How did I do this? It was in rooms, room initialization, and this is where I put all the UI in this game. Where is settings? I can hide all these menus. And I can hide all these menus, and that would be, I want to say, one of these options. That's going to be audio, that's going to be the scale. Okay, so what happens when I do this? Settings.video.apply scale. Okay. So right now, it just sets a value and doesn't actually do anything. Let's see, I can get the... Is there a getter for this? Did I make this fancy and have like a... It doesn't look like I did. Okay. In draw begin, where this is set up. So if not surface exists, self.background surface equals that. We can instead say self.background surface equals settings.video.scale value times what's the screen size. So we're going to multiply the screen size by the scale. Settings.video. Come on, I've already forgotten what it is. Size value.x. It would be really helpful if I could keep something in my working memory for more than like 2 nanoseconds. Var back width is going to be that. Var back height is going to be that.y. And I'm also going to, if not, let's see, if surface get width is not equal to back width or surface get height. Sometimes I wish I didn't give these variables such long names. We can surface free This is a bit of a messy bit of code. Have I written a function that's like surface validate or surface confirm or surface like... I haven't. Alright, I'll get to that in a minute. That's one of those library functions that's really helpful to carry between projects. If surface exists, alright, so if the surface exists and it's not of the correct dimensions, we're going to free the surface, and then if the surface does not exist, we are going to create the surface over here. And that is going to allow, when we mess with the like the resolution scale value, the background surface to get more and less pixelated. And that's actually just causing it to zoom in, which I don't want. Is that because I'm not doing anything with the camera on the like camera width, camera height in the background or anything like that? I probably should. All right. Let's take this one thing at a time. So, do I have a group of like library functions? Group underscore misc. I'm surprised I didn't put a surface validate like function over here. Anyway, let's do that now. Function surface validate. We're going to check an incoming surface for a width and a height. And let's say if surface exists, background surface. The surface that's an input to this function. So if the surface width, if the surface exists and the width is equal to width, and the surface, that should be an and because we're doing a yield De Morgan's here, and surface height is equal to the height that we're checking for, we can return surface. So if it exists and it's the correct size, we'll just pass it along. Otherwise, if the width and the height is not the correct size, then it exists surface, free surface, and we can return surface, create width and height. I sort of feel like this little helper function here is worth its own video on its own. Just because it's such a useful thing to have if you're checking the dimensions of a surface. Some people call it different things. I usually call it surface validate. I've also seen people call it something like surface, check surface, confirm, like I mentioned, surface, verify, that sort of thing. But anyway, we can say self.background surface equals surface validate. And we can check for that width and that height, and that's going to let us check that surface in just one line of code, which is nice. All right. It should misbehave in exactly the same way as it did a minute ago. Yeah, it's zooming in there. Because we're not actually doing anything with camera matrices here, and I need to make sure that the size of the surface that we're targeting is like the size of the camera on the surface that we're targeting, rather, is of the correct size. Let's commit this to GitHub first. This can be another update to GameMaker. That's cool. I will commit the surface validate function separately. And next, we don't need the changes to the room because I was just making layers visible so that I could see what they do. Actually, there is one thing that I kind of want to do. Oh, I already closed the background, the initialization room. There is one thing that I kind of want to do, and that is going to be... I want this to be a string format. Value can be that. The total number of whole number of places can just be 1, and the total number of decimal places can be 2. And this is gonna Where are we? I want settings. This is going to cause scale to say like 1.00 or 0.50, and I'll put like an X after that. So it's like 1.00x, and I think that'll be a little bit neater than simply having a 1 or a 0.5 or whatever. Alright, you go away. So the camera width and the camera height, I want to be like a fixed. I'm just gonna probably hard code this or make it a macro or something. I won't make it like a setting or anything. Camera, I can say set view width, right? Camera, there's so many camera functions. Camera set view size, I think. Camera get active. Can be the camera that we're getting, so this is just the default camera that's active on the surface, and the width can be, let's say that's 1366 and 768 for now. And I guess I'll make that a macro later on, but if I start the game, 3, 2, 1, go, settings, that actually does not help. I don't need a camera apply after that, do I? Hang on. What if I... So we're gonna create like a dedicated camera for the background. Camera set view width. View size high. And then we can just like specifically, and then after targeting the surface, and after resetting the render target, we can reuse the default camera. Normally, I do use view and projection matrices, and I will do that here if I have to, but I'd like to see if I can make a game without, like, doing that. Alright, that worked. So the background is getting more pixelated, but not zooming in. Good. I like that. And it's not actually as dramatic as I thought it would be. There's an argument to be made here, I think, that this is actually better at a more pixelated background because it's jittering around because of like the pixel size. So maybe not, but I was gonna say the pixelated background is a little bit less bold than the smooth vector background, and it's possible that makes it easier to focus on what's happening in the foreground. Although again, I'll reserve that judgment until after I do the outline thing. I can commit this. This is gonna be the background camera size doesn't get weird when you mess with the scale. And I think I can officially check off this. Alright. Next, for an outline of sorts, and it doesn't matter how many times I implement an outline around something, I always have to look it up every time, and that's really kind of silly. If I go into Bombardier and look at and just like grab the outline shader that I was using for that, that's going to be, I assume it's a pass-through vertex shader. Yeah, this is a pretty pass-through vertex shader. Let me just create a SHD outline. I'll get to making the 1366 by 768 a macro in a minute. I want to do this before I completely lose it. The fragment shader is going to take the kernel and it's going to pass the kernel over every pixel on the texture that it's drawing, and it's going to basically get the contrast in the All right, we're doing the RGB here. I think I might actually just use the length of the alpha vector, which is just literally going to be the alpha vector, the alpha component of the vector. And that way, like, we'll draw an outline if there's a transition in alpha. If you were to simply, because the foreground as it's drawn, I can close a bunch of these windows. The foreground as it's drawn in the post-draw event, the application surface, it's going to be a mostly actually just like transparent background. If I were to draw checkerboard instead of the background surface, you would see that there is a lot of transparency in the application surface. And I can instead say shader set, SHD outline, shader reset when we're done. And this does take a uniform of the texture size, right? So that's going to be shader get uniform, shader set uniform. We need the name of the uniform here, and the value can be, what's it? Okay, so that should draw an outline around just like general objects. That won't allow us to just regularly draw the actual foreground. I think just the easiest way to do that would be just to draw the surface again without the outline shader when we're done. And yeah, all right, that's kind of a cool effect. We've got the cookie cutter shape of the ants, the dragon slash damselfly, and then of whatever else we're drawing there. That's kind of a cool effect, honestly. However, yeah, it definitely looks better when they're filled like this. Okay, so that's going to provide a little bit of contrast. Exactly how thick you want the outline to be is a matter of like artistic preference. I'm fine with just having this outline here. If I were to settings, reduce the scale a little bit, and then play the game like this, the foreground outlines and the foreground resolution obviously doesn't change, but we do have the oh, are the bullets being drawn as part of the background? That's not what I want. Bullets shouldn't be drawn as part of the background. Anyway, I'm gonna have to fix that too. We've got the outline. I'm glad that didn't take too long. I think after this series, like after this is officially done and the game is unhinged or whatever, I will, these common bits of code, I will make a video in which I show myself like extracting them for ease of use in the future. Maybe not the menu system, even though this is basically the same menu system that I did use in Bombardier, because a couple other games I want to make in the future will not be making use of menu systems like that, but common things like this, the surface validate function and that sort of thing, I think I'll make a video dedicated to extracting. Let's see, we have outlines. All right, that's been being procrastinated for 30 videos, but it's in now. That was not a card. Okay. Let's see. I actually forgot. I wanted to do this last night, but I was tired, so I forgot. But to pick out a collection of a dozen or so 3D objects to use in various background types. So we have the forest lands, grasslands, swamplands, beach lands, desert lands, the general video game fare. I wanted to grab a couple batches of Kenny models for that. For the other background types, as well as just the title screen, I forgot. If I can get through a couple of the other things I want to do real quick, I will do that just at the end of this video. Otherwise, that'll wait until next time. What's in the backlog, though? All right. Yeah, one, let's send this to a board right now. Because do wanna have different shapes for different bullets. And I also want bullets to not draw as part of the background, because that's just a little bit silly. I'm not... Oh, I am saying with bullet and perform here. Whereas instead, I could be saying that after the surface target is reset. Which I feel like... Wait. I also want to grab all this. No. Also the shader set. Alright, so we're going to draw the background, we're going to reset the surface target, we're going to apply the default camera, clear the application surface, we're going to reset the shader, turn off Z testing, because bullets should be drawn in like 2D mode, draw all the bullets, turn on Z testing, and then set the world shader, and that should allow bullets to be drawn onto the regular application surface. They'll have a bit of an outline, and that'll give them like a little bit of extra thickness, and that's okay. I think the larger bullet size is actually, like, the outline makes them a pixel bigger in every direction, but it also makes them a little bit easier to see. And hopefully, once in a while, the player should feel like they thought they got hit, but they didn't, and it'll feel good as opposed to, like, the other way around. That being what happens when, like, the bullet collision box is bigger than the, what's the word? Like, the bullet collision box is bigger than the sprite. Anyway, let's get out of there. And let's draft some sprites. For these... Alright, so this is just like the collision shape, which is used for all bullet types, I think. This is the player's bullet collision, which is a little bit bigger than the foe's, so that the player feels like they get a break more than they get screwed over. And the actual sprites... Where are you? Programmer art and stuff. All right. Let's move that into here. You're graduating from programmer art, and we'll try to make this at least a little bit nicer. So regular bullets. There's a part of me that thinks, like, can I give these guys a normal map and that'll have them respond to light as if they're 3D objects, even though they're just 2D sprites? But that's more scope than I want this close to the end. So instead, I think I'll just maybe give you a... Can I give you like a little bit of a highlight around the edges? Like that. We'll start with that. Let's see if that looks marginally better than what we had before. Of course, zoomed in, it looks a lot more pixelated than it will in the actual game. Alright, it's really hard to see that I made any change when they're moving as fast as they are. So if I have something that's shooting at me... Alright, I think that actually looks stupid, so maybe we'll go back on this and we won't do that. What if I leave the enemy bullets as circles, and player bullets I can make a little bit, like, sharper looking. Can I make you... Let's say, width of 12 and a height of 16 or so. Or maybe width of 12 and a height of 18. Something like, instead of this, something more like... And I'm super glad to find out that even though I told GameMaker not to maintain sprite aspect ratio in the sprite editor, it did it anyway, so that's cool. All right, we've got dagger-shaped bullets for the player, and I think the homing bullets might actually get a similar fare. Obviously, they'll rotate to face the direction that they're moving in. Player bullet sprite, and apparently when I updated GameMaker, it wanted to make changes to the sprite metadata of every sprite in the game. So it did that to the ones that I edited. Sprite bullet homing. We can give you a similar fare. However, homing bullets I will have rotate, so I'm going to need those to be, I think, instead of 12 by 16, that's going to be 16 by 12. And I'm going to have you facing sideways so that your like image angle can be like the direction that we're moving in or whatever. Bullet homing, the object step. This is the dir. Okay, that looks good. Self.image angle is going to be equal to dir. And in the draw event, we're just going to draw self. All right. That look good? Let's see, when the wasps shoot at me, all right, they do turn to face me. Slowly. Should it be the direction that they're moving in? Does that make it easier to see, or should they always face towards the player? Is the question. I'm going to leave it as they always face the direction that they're moving in, because I feel like that's like a vector that the player can think about and get useful information from. Whereas if they were just like always turning to face the player, it would feel a little bit disorienting. But if you want this to be instead like point direction in the direction of the player, game design by Democracy. Let me know in the comments. All right. I think that's good for now. I no longer have things such as exploding bullets and that sort of thing, because I removed that power, because I didn't think it was really going to make the game that much better, and I want to get this done within the next few weeks. Another thing that I did not write down, I don't think, and I wish Hack and Plan had like a dedicated bug section, because that would make it easier for me to like put all these sorts of things. But when you run the game, if you increase the window size, it doesn't scale correctly. And the exact way that it doesn't scale correctly, I think there's a couple ways it doesn't scale correctly, depending on how you increase the window size, like full screen versus just making the window bigger. And I think that's going to be the last thing I do today. So if I were to say make the screen size bigger, yeah, we're not scaling properly. The background I think is scaling properly, but the foreground is not. Actually, that is the same thing that happens when you play the game in full screen. So it is the same issue. And the reason for that is because I did not use the correct draw surface function here. And if I did that, gameplay would scale with the screen size. I also don't see that we're actually saving the settings anywhere. We should definitely be saving the settings. So if I were to make the window bigger, or go into full screen, which I'll do next, but yeah, the UI is still being weird, but we can, all right, so we're also not, like the mouse cursor still thinks the window is 1366 by 768. So at least gameplay is stretching to fill correctly, but the mouse cursor isn't. And actually, wait. All right, hold up. I just realized that this is also like scaling the application surface instead of making the camera bigger. All right, again, let's take care of one issue at a time. So I can't surface validate the application surface because the application surface can't be assigned to a read, but I can say surface resize. And there's this. And I can say if surface get size. So if the size of the application surface is not what the game thinks it should be, then we can just resize the application surface. I may have to also do this like apply camera set width, camera set height for the foreground as well. Let me run the game and see if GameMaker just like deals with that the correct way when I do that. I don't think it will. I think I'll have to make some changes myself. Like, I think we're still going to have a 1366, 768 window. Oh, no. We actually do. All right. Particles are not in the correct place, and that is because they are also being drawn in, like, window space instead of in game world space. I don't want to ping-pong around too many surfaces, but I might have a separate surface that the... Oh, you know what? I remember why that is. And that's because... I'll deal with that one way or another later, too. I could put them on their own surface, but if you remember the fun time surface alpha problems that I just prefer not to deal with, I'd rather not do that. But the camera application surface is drawn at the correct size and scale. And you know what I honestly might just do for the particle system when that's drawn is like just do a little matrix transform here. When you're in post draw, you're drawing to the frame buffer and you can't like resize that surface or anything, but you can still play with like camera matrices and that sort of thing. Boy, in that case, like I could do a matrix transform. I could just draw like a little pass-through shader that scales everything by a certain amount. It's going to be maybe the next path of least resistance. Alright, now it's in the right place. Man alive. Alright, if it's stupid and it works, it's not stupid. That 274 is going to haunt me for the rest of my life, isn't it? We can say particle scaling on the UI. And lastly, there's the business with the mouse. All right, I can get rid of that show debug message and window get mouse X, window mouse get X. All right, I think it's fine for the UI. Like, I was able to click on the UI and everything and the settings menus and everything in full screen. So that's fine for the UI because that exists in screen space. Where it's of concern is here. Can I actually say... mouse X and mouse Y for this? Because mouse X and mouse Y are the mouse's position in the room. And most of the time that's not helpful to what I want to do in a game, but it might if I, for example, had a big window. Yeah, like the UI is responding to the mouse position correctly. And also the 3, 2, 1 countdown is in the wrong place. That actually, I think, made it worse. Oh, I see. I forgot to set a few anchor points in the UI, did I? Wait a minute, you know what? Alright, big stupid. This is in the, this is happening in the creative end of the player. And I want the one that happens when the game is actually updating. Are we not? Alright, this is the one. Let me take this. MX is going to be that, or MY is going to be that. And we can instead have the target that we're moving towards MX, MY. Like that. And I was wondering why it didn't seem to matter what the setting was. Alright, that made it worse. Alright, that made it worse. It needs to be division. I was right the first time, but I had the code in the wrong like section of code. You can tell I've been doing this for a while, and I'm starting to get tired of it. Alright, now the player follows the mouse. If I were to shoot you, we do this. When we go into full screen, I feel like we should automatically set the game resolution size, like the application surface resolution, to the size of your display. And alright, this actually is pretty satisfying in full screen now that it's like not stupid. Like, we're playing at a lower resolution now. Not really what we want. Player follows the mouse cursor regardless of resolution. When we do the 3, 2, 1 countdown, oh, this is tied. This like 3, 2, 1 countdown. Not only is it not being drawn with respect to the window instead of the application surface, which it probably should have been, but it's also it's being drawn with respect to the application surface. So if I fix the application surface like not being of the right size, I can also simultaneously fix that issue. If window get full screen, window get width will return just like the size of the monitor either way, like whichever display you happen to be on if you're in full screen, right? Can I kill 2 birds with 1 stone here? I'm gonna do this in a level instead of in the menu because I want to see it in like real time. Okay, so that's a yes. We have like resized this correctly. And alright. Ow. Boy, am I really enjoying those bag rooms. Alright, I gotta stop. I've got a game to make. Although I think it's a good sign that I'm inclined to keep playing when I'm testing this, even though I'm only intending to play the game enough to test whatever I'm doing. Alright. That's good. Are there any other issues I want to, like, straighten out right now? Because those two are the last that I really wanted to not leave hanging today. I think I'm gonna re-backlog this for like the 3rd time. Other backgrounds, I will... That probably shouldn't take an entire video. I'll probably try to mush that into like whenever I get the rest of the music in. I've really got to bother Ryan about music. I wanted to have like music for the game like 2 weeks ago, and I don't know where he's been. He's fun to work with, but deadlines are important. And this didn't come down to me putting this off this time. I messaged him about this over the summer, and I don't know where he's been, so take that as you will. But next time I'm gonna try and finish off everything else, like just as much as I can. I don't have a specific theme for next time. I want these obviously, but that shouldn't take an entire video. I want at the very least a player die sound effect. I want audio win with collectible for the first time, and also with a it's not really a collectible anymore, but a criteria that you have not like unlocked progression wise yet, and I still need to figure out what the third one's going to be. I'll try to do that by next time. I'm going to want to have a credit screen filled in. Also shouldn't take an entire video. That's also going to be these classes of people. And also links. Most of them shouldn't take too long. Oh, bullet designs. That was a duplicate card. I already did that. That was that. Alright, I can just delete this because that's a duplicate. Alright, anyway, the rest of these I'll Hack and Plan is not having it today. The rest of these audio events I'm going to backlog again. I may do them later on when the game is done if I revisit this in an update, but they're not of uber importance right now, so I won't. And this is where we are in Sprint 3. I really should have broken this up into like multiple sprints, because this was by far the longest out of all of the other out of all the others. Like Sprint 4 is just going to be like dealing with stuff that it doesn't involve code. So this is where we are in the project overall. I hope you all are enjoying this, and I will see you all later. Special thanks to Army Armbuster, DJ Gibbles, Edward Holt, Game Maker, Harold Gidry, Kiexi, Sindra Larson, Squarecrow, The Oz, and Zengerman for supporting these videos. If you want to contribute to the channel, head on over to the Patreon page down in the video description to join the fun.